All right, so I don't remember exactly where I left off in the last video, but I know that I hadn't haired up the chin, or should say glued hair up the chin. Um, and so what I've done now is I've gotten to a point where I have finished all of the gluing onto the mask. Um, if you're not doing a lip mechanism, then you can glue more than what I've glued here. You can glue further in, especially if it's a fixed mask and you're not even gonna move the jaw at all. But this is generally what I do with all the masks that I complete myself, because everybody seems to want a lip mechanism. But this is it. So I'm gonna tip them up, give you a better view. I used 9-inch hair through almost all of the gray, and then just some longer hairs just towards the end as I was getting closer to the brow. I also did some of these streaks here because I'm kind of going for a New Hope look, and there's some streaks in his hair. And these streaks are a little longer. They're like 10 inches or so. They're really small, and I've just glued those in. It's a little harder to punch the long hairs, so I like gluing those in. Everything else is 9 inches, except for that last little, I think it's about 1.5 inches, 2 inches, where I glued in it's like 5-6 inch hair. Keep in mind, I'm saying 5-6, that's what I cut it at when I cut it on my table, but I end up trimming a little bit off to even out the ends that I want to glue, and I end up trimming a little off the other end with the thinning shears. So it ends up being shorter than the 5-6 inches, probably closer to 4.5, 5. And then of course 3/4 of it, or 3/4 of an inch of it or so, 1/2 inch to 3/4 of an inch gets glued down. So it ends up being, 4.5, 5 inches as it hangs off of the mask. But I think the key here is you get an idea of what hair is glued on this mask, and what hair is punched, because I'm going to start the punching here soon, and everything that you can see that's not haired right now gets punched in. So that's kind of where we're at. Anyway, I'm going to tip him up, make another video here, tip him up, and then that way you can see what he looks like when he's tipped up. Okay, so I've got him all tipped up here, and kind of see what we're looking like at this point. This hair has a tendency to want to tuck in, so I got to kind of pull it out from under, pull it out from behind that back cowl. I could always go in and trim that cowl, make it a little bit narrower too, so it doesn't do that, but this isn't a problem. For somebody that's going to be suiting up in this, not a problem either. Anyway, I went and just kind of pulled it out on each side. And you can see how that hair under the chin kind of hangs. I'll show you a side profile here. You can always mess around with that too. I like to kind of pull it out, and then these ends I like to kind of curl them back, but I'll do that with some styling afterwards. I'll kind of like hold them in place and then style them. I'll probably have a styling video at some point towards the end of this. But this is what we're looking at right now. Hair seems pretty good, like it's staying where I want it to stay for the most part until like a final styling type of thing. So I'm gonna go ahead and start the punching process. Considering making a whole nother video for the punching, this being the gluing phase. There's really, I guess, 3 or 4 main phases to getting hair on this mask. There's gluing that back cowl on, and then there's doing the gray mane all the way up to the front, and then that would be like the second phase of this. The third phase is gluing on all the brown, and then the fourth phase would be punching the hair into the mask. So it's kind of its own thing. And so I'm gonna just make a quick video here, and I may just separate the videos so people can kind of think of it more like, intervals in the library and stuff. These streaks here, they're glued in. The glue's still curing. I'll brush them in so they'll kind of blend in. You won't be able to see them as clearly, and you'll see how it all kind of comes together as I do that. I added a little bit of heat on the bottom after I glued it on. I had him face up, and then again I pointed the heat downward and just brushed, just to try and take out some of that crimp that was in it. He definitely needs some styling, but he's looking really good. Not just, unlike some of the other masks I've done. But so far, still happy with this hair, at least for now. The punching is going to be the telltale sign with this hair, so we'll see how it goes. Punching, I don't know, it's just a whole nother thing, whole nother learning curve, so not not super difficult, but there's just a couple of key points that I'll make sure to touch on in that video. Anyway, so I guess phase 3 is done of this mask, and we're trucking right along. All right, getting ready to start punching hair here. I want to talk about some of the tools I'm using, and also where I'm going to start punching, and just talk a little bit about what I'm dealing with as I'm punching it. But what I'm going to start with is I'm going to start by punching all the hair on this bottom lip, and I'm just going to kind of get it up to an even spot. I'll probably kind of bring it up to about here. So I'm going to punch through this glue, and then all the way up as close as I can get, really, to this bottom lip. I'll do the same thing all the way over on the other side, and try to have it so this under jaw part is completely haired, and that'll be done. From there, I'll go up and I'll punch the brow and the eyes, and then I'll come in from the cheeks. For some reason, that's just the way I've done it. I don't think you have to do it in that order, but that's just the way I've liked doing it. It's pretty slow progress with the punching because I'm trying to do just one hair at a time. And I think that when I do it that way, when I kind of do the lower jaw first, then I move up here, you get to see progress, and so it's just really nice. It feels like you're getting something done. These cheeks can be quite a bear because it's a big space to hair, and it's just it's easy to just feel like you're not getting anywhere with them. So I like to do those other areas first and then just kind of work on the cheeks. All right, a couple of tools that I'm working with here when I'm starting to punch hair. Most importantly is felting needle. Now, I've got my felting needle. These things come in there's like a little bar thing at the end of them. You can't see this one because I've stuck it in the end of a sculpting tool and just glued it in there so that I have a little bit more ability to manipulate the felting tool and get different angles. But this is a felting needle. Some people, they use the other needle ends and they clip it off. I've always just liked the felting needle better, and I've gotten pretty good at grabbing 1 to 2 hairs at a time with it. That's the real challenge with the hair punching, is how close can you get to the 1 hair at a time thing, because the closer you get to 1 hair at a time, the more of a natural look you're going to get. The angle is very important too, but 1 hair at a time at the correct angle is going to give you a very natural look. Even with the synthetic hair, you're going to get a pretty natural look. So felting needle, I recommend fixing some sort of a handle to it. And I don't remember the size of this felting needle offhand, but I tried to get the smallest felting needle I can. I was trying to make it so I could just grab 1 hair at a time. If you haven't done this before, I would recommend practicing on another, dummy piece of silicone, and just practice on it. You can practice on the mask too if you're working on a kit that's mine, or I won't speak for other kits, but if you're working on a piece of silicone that I made, then you can practice on it. Just don't go punching a million times in the same spot, because eventually, if you over punch in a spot, it's probably gonna degrade that area of silicone. It can only take so many holes. That being said, I've never had a problem pulling hair out, repunching the same spot, which does happen when you do this. I'm not going to be using Silpoxy, I don't think, at all when I do this, but I always just keep it handy in case there's an area that I decide I want to glue instead of punch. I keep some thinning shears on hand, but for punching, really, you just need the felting needle, some sort of a handle fixed to it, which I didn't even start using until a little bit, a couple months back. So for a long time, I was just using the little tiny felting needle. And I'm going to start off with 4-inch hairs because I'm doing this bottom area here. 4 inches is a pretty common length. I do get into the 3 and then even the 2 inch as I get really close up on the nose, but I'll be talking about that later. For now, just starting off punching this lower lip to get it done down there, and it's going to be that's a 4 to 5 inch piece of hair. So I'm going to punch it. I probably will thin one end of it before I do it, or I could just punch it on and then I may just thin it out after I get it all punched on. So hopefully that makes sense. I got a bundle of 4 to 5 inch hair here, a couple of ones set aside. I'm going to put this camera up closer so you guys can get an idea of the technique I'm using when I'm actually punching hair. All right, so talking about technique here. Now, what I did was I had this pad of silicone that I accidentally poured too much silicone one time, and it just sat in the bottom of a bucket. So I had this, and I end up using this for just demonstration, and I use it to just kind of practice myself on. So I had, when I was setting up the camera on the mask to try and get a good angle so I could show in this video my technique for this, it's just really tough to get a good angle with the camera, and I'm still going to try and do the best I can. But I thought if I get this out and just do a demo on the technique that I'm using, so I thought that that might be easier for people to understand. So I've got my hair here, and I like to pick it up. Now, how I hold this, I can only speak for myself. Other people might do this differently. I encourage you to look and see how other people do it, find what works best for you. But I'm going to explain what works best for me. I have huge hands. Maybe that plays a role. I don't know. So I have my hair that I want to punch into the mask. Okay, in this case, this is my demo mask right here. And so what I do is I hold it like this. The reason why I hold it like that is because I don't want to be holding it super tight. Okay, I want to hold it just sort of just gently enough to where when I'm grabbing a hair out of it, I'm just grabbing that one hair, and then because what I'll do is I'll grab the hair with the needle, I'll push it in, and then I'm going to be pulling away to try and get that hair out of this bundle that I'm holding. And what I don't want to happen, and inevitably it happens all too frequently, is as I'm grabbing that one hair out, that hair grabs other hairs, and then I end up losing, you know, and it ends up kind of messing up my bundle of hair. If I grab too tight, the punch won't go in, and it'll just pull the hair back out because I'm just grabbing onto that hair that I'm just trying to punch in, and I'm just pulling it back out. So I have to grab it enough to where I'm grabbing the bundle, but I'm also not grabbing that hair that I'm wanting to punch in. Hopefully it's just one hair. So hopefully that makes sense. But what I do is I find the area that I want to punch. So I'm just going to say I'm going to punch 5 or 10 hairs into this area. And I put the edge of my, let's see if I can get a lighter spot for you. So I just put the edge of my bundle of hair in there so I can just grab a couple of hairs off of the end of the bundle. And so what I do is I push the needle down, I set the needle down. I'll get a better view for you here. I set the needle down on those couple of hairs on the end, and then I just move that needle in, and I can see it grab 2 hairs that time, and they're in there. And then what I do is I just gently pull the whole thing out, and I can see now I've got 2 hairs kind of sticking out of there. Okay. All right, and then I just keep doing that, trying to grab just 1. That time I grabbed 2 again. I have a feeling this hair is going to be hard to grab just 1 at a time, but I'll eventually get it. Sometimes if I rotate the felting needle around, that time I grab 3. It's not the end of the world though if I grab 3. Just the more times you get good at grabbing 1, the better. And that advice comes to me from the great Michelle Nairi, who is an unbelievable hair person. She haired the Adam Savage mask that the Tom Spina did, and she's done some other incredible work too. So I was fortunate enough to have a PM conversation with her. She doesn't even recommend the felting needle, she probably knows more than I do, that's for sure. But I don't know, I've just always used this felting needle, and I've liked it. Haven't really wanted to learn how to do it with the other one. Tried it a couple times, but I don't know, I just kind of went back to the felting needle because I was happy with the results. So I'll see if I can zoom in there, because I know that's tough to see. But I've got, I don't know, maybe 10 little strands of hair that are latched in there. I don't know if you can, kind of blurry, but hopefully you can see them. But that's the technique that I've got there. So it's push down on the hair or hairs that you're trying to punch in, and then push through. And then I just pull the felt needle out, and I just gently pull the bundle of hair off of the hair. So hopefully that makes sense. I'm going to be doing that on the mask here in a second, but I wanted to demo it here on my new demo pad. This little blue piece here, if you're wondering what that was, that's just so that I don't jab myself with this thing when I'm not using it. I just jab it in the silicone. It's sort of my cap for this, just so I don't jab myself. With every mask, I end up jabbing myself once or twice with the felting needle, and it does not feel good. It and the hackle of death are, I don't know. They just, I don't know. It's probably going to happen unless you're just ultra careful. Anyway, that's that. All right, so here we are at the mask. I'm going to start off punching this area right here. And what I'm going to try to do is just take about a 1-inch square area, and I'm just going to punch, and I'm actually going to start pretty close to where the unglued hair is. So you can see there's about a 1/2 inch to a 3/4 of an inch space that's been glued down. And I'm going to punch right through that because we've got to hide that area. Obviously, we don't want people seeing that. So I'm just using that same technique that I just did, and I'm just moving over about, I don't know, 1/16 of an inch each time, kind of moving this thing, excuse me, burping on video, moving this thing wherever I want that hair to be punched. You're really using both hands during this process. I don't see any other way around it. I'm just kind of working my way through this. It's a little bit more, you have to push a little bit harder with the felting needle to get through the areas that are glued. It becomes much smoother when you're punching into just a straight silicone. But there's no way around it. You know, you could punch the whole mask, but boy, that would take a long time. And the hair that's punched in, you know, unless you glue it in, it could be pulled out. Depending on how thick the silicone is, depending on how far the hair is punched in, it could be more or less difficult to pull out, but ultimately it could be pulled out. So I'm just kind of working my way through this space. I guess I've maybe punched, I don't know, 25 different punches. I'm trying to get one hair at a time. Most of these are ending up being 2 hairs at a time. I'm not going to worry about it. I will take a look at it after I'm done punching. There are times when I go to punch and it doesn't even grab a hair at all. So that's something to think about too. One thing that is important is as I punch, I'm trying to grab the end of the hair, or the relative end of the hair. In other words, when I punch that hair or hairs in, I want them to go in straight. I don't want them to have to fold over when they go in the hole that I'm punching into. The reason being is because if they fold over, then chances are I'm going to get like a little stub sticking out on one end, which is not a natural look. The natural look is for a single strand of hair to be coming out of, the follicle. So I'm just working my way through this 1-inch patch, almost kind of getting sort of towards the end of where the glued area is. I don't know if you can see how I'm holding this thing, but I'm just doing this right here. Punching in, I don't know, I'm going in maybe about a 1/2 inch with the hair. Oh, and I need to talk about the angle too. The angle that I'm punching at is very important. If I were to just punch straight in like this, then that hair is going to be wanting to stick out towards the camera right now. So what I'm doing is I want that hair to be going down this way. So what I'm doing is I'm punching in at the reverse of that angle, so that hair is pointing the direction that I want it to point after it's punched into the mask. You can see maybe you can see some of the hairs that I'm grabbing from this are hairs that have already begun to be pulled out of my hand, because as I pull the hair off of the hair that I punched in, it's wanting to pull other hairs with it. And I'm trying to avoid that by having a nice loose grip on this bundle of hair. It seems like the tighter I'm holding on to it, the more it wants to grab other hairs as I'm pulling it out. There's so much about this process that I think you just have to kind of dive in and sort of learn on your own. And then you go back and you watch a video like this and you go, oh yeah, that's what he was talking about. So this is a pretty resilient, punching hair is a pretty resilient process. What I mean by that is that if you mess up, all that hair I just punched, I could just pull it out and re-punch it. Now, I don't want to do that 5 times, but, you know, I could, and it would still be fine. Notice how I went to hold this hair right here with my fingertips. I have found that that doesn't work because there's just too much pressure on the hair there. Trying to go in at a flat angle. Trying to keep it flat against the skin. Not diving straight through the skin. I'm really trying to put that hair at an angle. I've only got a few hairs left in my hand. I typically try to use every single hair in my hand. And at some point, my wrist does start getting tired from the angle. This angle is a little bit different even because I'm trying to videotape this, but is videotape even? I'm just going to say video. Boy, I'm old. Anyway, so I pretty much teared that area that I'm talking about right here. It's hid the glue. I'm going to go around, I'm going to go and hide the glue around that whole bottom of the mouth up here on over. I'll do the same thing, and then I'll come back and I'll start punching into the lower part of the mouth. There's a couple of these that there's like these little stubbles sticking up because the hair folded over. Sometimes I go in and I'll just trim those little stubbles off. If it's really annoying and I can't get it, I'll just pull it out. Yeah. So hopefully that gives you at least a little bit of a crash course into the punching. I'll revisit with some videos here, but I'm going to make some good progress on this, and then I'll come back with another video. And I'm just expecting to have to answer people's questions on this as they start doing it. But don't be afraid to dive in. You can always pull it out and re-punch the hair to your liking. So hopefully it helps. All right, so I've got the chin all done. I did go in and do a little bit of thinning just to kind of give it a blended look. There was a few lines. I still need to kind of go in it a little bit towards the end and just kind of give it a final detail, but I always do that anyway. Now I'm going to move up to the brow. And the brow can be, the brow and around the eyes in general, especially the top part of the eye, can be the most difficult spot. In fact, probably the most difficult spot is this area in here. The question is, how do you get to it? Well, I always try to keep things simple. Well, I shouldn't say, I usually make things really difficult, and then I remind myself that I try to keep things simple. And then what came from that thinking is the tongue depressor or the mixing stick, whichever you prefer to call it. But there's a reason why I don't glue down everything around the eye socket. Well, a couple reasons, but one of the reasons is because when it comes time to hair that, I want to do it while it's on the mask, and I need to be able to lift this up so that it's easier to get to. And so what I do is, if my hair was a mixing stick, I would just take it and then I just kind of jab it under that skin there to hold that area up, and then I would hair it. I can grab 2 or 3 of them at a time and hold up a larger area. And I'll do the same thing for this very difficult to get area in here. This area is a little easier to get to, and it does get tricky as you get up in here, but I'll just take something and I'll just stick it under the skin to kind of lift it up in order to hair it. And I just use a lot of these little sticks here. One of the things I've done is I'll like lift it up and then I'll put it all the way through so that the stick is sitting like this. And so on both sides it gets that sort of an effect right there. Which just makes that skin easy to get to. I don't want to leave it like that overnight, but it totally works for the 15-20 minutes that you're punching hair into it. And so that's what I'm going to recommend to people who are wearing this kind of a mask. But yeah, it's pretty easy that way. Up against the outside of the eye, there's quite a bit of glue, and the glue goes all the way into the eye socket. So it's a little bit trickier to hair that just because you're having to push through some glue. But definitely doable. So yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and start hairing the brow. Notice I've already started hairing some of this stuff in the middle. Notice that I started way before the end of the glue line. I started all the way up here because I want that to be the glue, especially the glossy area of the glue, to be sufficiently hidden. I'll do the same thing. I'll start punching hair in about up in these areas here, and I'll kind of just work my way. I'll work my way forward by lifting that up. And I'm going to get as close to the edge as I possibly can. I can always cut that out later on if I need a little bit more room, or if something, you know, if hairs are poking me in the eyes, I can always clean that stuff up later. And then when I'm done, if there's any hairs poking through on the inside of the mask, what I'll do is I'll go in and I'll trim everything, or use some little beard trimmers or something, and I'll just trim all that stuff on the inside that might be poking me. And then I'll line the inside of the eye, the silicone portion, with some Silpoxy, just to hold everything in place, because the silicone, as it gets closer to the eye, does get pretty thin, sometimes very thin, and it's easier for those hairs to pull out. And so it's nice if they have a little bit of a glue backing on them. All right, so I'm gonna get going on the brow, and then I will do another video to kind of show my progress. All right, so I made a little bit of headway there on the eye. You can see I've kind of moved that brown hairline forward. I've got 2 popsicle sticks in there, and I keep kind of moving them around, and then occasionally when I push the felting needle through, it wants to push them out of the way, but it's just kind of a reset them type of thing. Now, keep in mind that the top of that eye is flipped up. It's flipped up right here. I bent it up with my finger in the last video. Now it's up with the popsicle sticks. And if I were to take the popsicle sticks out, it would sit back down, and that hair is going to just sort of pop up. So I'm going to show you that, and then talk about what I do to get it going the right direction. So you can see right here what happens to that hair after you pull it down. You can see it kind of retakes its form back in there. There's a little bit of bumpiness to it because I've got to trim some of the hair that's poking through on the inside, and then it'll sit more flush to that eye socket. But for right now, I got to do something about this hair, because what I do is I do kind of patches like this, and then what I do is I just use that brush and just hold it down gently and put heat on it with the blow dryer, and it will basically just hold and melt in place, or reset itself in place. So I'm gonna do that. I've done this in another video on I think I posted it on YouTube a while back, so some people already have an idea of how I'm doing that, but I'm gonna do it again for this video just so you guys have the reference. All right, so I got the hair that's kind of sticking up, I've got my blow dryer, and I've got this brush, and I'm just gonna basically hold it down sort of in the place that I want it to go, and then put the heat on it, and we'll see it stay in place. And I've got a little more in the middle of it, but you can see it's definitely working. So it holds pretty well if you do this method. I've made masks that I didn't even have to use almost any product in at all for keeping the hair where I want it to stay, at least for the purposes of making the mask. But you can see here what that hair has done. If you get the side angle, turn it the other way. The side angle, the difference on it, I mean, it was all flipped up before, and now it's just staying curved. Now I'm using the 3 to 3.5, 4 inch pieces of hair here, and I have like a pile of them that I'm just pulling from. I will go in at the end. What I'll go back and do is look at some pictures of Chewie and kind of see what that brow is, remind myself of what that brow is supposed to be looked like, and then I'll just thin this out or shorten that brow hair, because it is shorter than this, but it has sort of a blended look into his forehead. So I'll work on that with the thinning shears. And so basically, I'll make a video of that later, but I'll go in. The reason why I like doing the longer hair is it's easier to hold. The shorter the hair gets, the more difficult it gets to hold it and manipulate it in your hand, and the more difficult it gets to shape it. So if I have 4 to 5 inch pieces that I just kind of put across that whole brow, then I can always go in later and shorten them and shape them and make that brown section of the brow look the way that I want it to look later on. So that's been the standard way that I've done things. I think that's it. Popsicle sticks, felting needle, thinning shears, blow dryer, and detangler brush, or any brush for that matter, just something to hold that hair down. I like, rather than using my hands, because the blow dryer gets pretty hot. Be careful with the heat, you know, go slow. If you don't, you know, if you just go, you can melt the hair off depending on the sensitivity of your hair, but yeah, just go slow with it. But anyway, this is turning out to be a really fantastic mask. I really am liking the colors and the blended look, and the owner of it's gonna love it. It's gonna match his suit, and gonna be a fantastic looking mask. I'm not gonna want to get rid of it. Anyway, so that's you hear the brow. I'm gonna make significant progress, probably maybe even finish the brow, and then I'll come back and show a video and talk about anything that I missed in these couple of videos I've talked about punching the brow. I'm gonna be using these popsicle sticks a bunch. I'm gonna be doing all of those things that I talked about. At some point, I'm gonna take this thing and I'm just gonna shove it all the way through so that I can hair that very difficult to spot to get inside of the eye. I'm gonna do stuff like put it down here, and then find a way. I might get a big rubber band just to push this up so that I can get to that area right here more easily. I'm just gonna find ways to lift that skin up so that it's easier for me to get to as I'm trying to get around and get that punching needle into position. This area on the outside of the eye, I'm just going to do the best I can and try to punch through that glue. It's a little bit more difficult to punch through, but I'll get it. And if I don't get all that glue hidden, I can always dab it with some pancake makeup to just kind of hide that glued edge there. That the outside of the eyes can be kind of a tough spot to manage. And I think that's it. So I'm going to finish the brow and then make another video. All right, so just making some more progress on this eye here, or the eye area rather. You can see, if you look close enough, you can see there's like some hairs that are kind of sticking up that direction. Sticking up, I'll use my pointer there. They're sticking up this direction, and they need to be going that direction. I'm just going to use those same techniques that I've already talked about, but you can see how much more I've done. This area right here that has really quite a bit of glue to go through, and it's not like hard to punch or anything, but I really need to like lift it back up like this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put one of these sticks under it. I can't really do it without two hands, but I'm putting these sticks under it, and then underneath sort of where my thumb is, or where my middle finger is sitting, I'm gonna like prop it up just so that it's like lifting that area up. So I'm just trying to give you guys an idea of how I'm using these sticks to get in the places that I need to get into. It'll make more sense when you start punching yourself and you're able to see, you know, how it's some angles are more difficult than others. But I'm really trying to stay, you know, flat and get under, so I can get that hair pointed in the right direction. You can see some of this stuff is punched pretty well. I'm pretty happy with that. So I think the general idea, and I do say general, and I mean general idea, is that you're trying to get the hair to go in the direction that you want it to go before you add heat, so that you only have to add a little bit of heat to get it to just bend a little bit. And then you can also use some hairspray too, some like fast drying hairspray to help out with that. But ideally what you want to do is punch it so that it can just be sort of heat induced to go in the right direction. So hopefully you're getting that idea here. This part right here is about the most difficult part to punch, and so if you can get that part, then and be able to manipulate things, then you're going to be in really good shape. Yeah, so I've got some hairs sticking up here, and I need to put some heat on it and kind of pet it down the way I need to do it with the blow dryer. So I'm going to do that next. And then I'll probably go start on the other brow. I'm kind of, I'll probably finish just this area to the bottom of the eye, and then I'll go and do the other brow, and then I like to go in on the cheeks. So that's kind of where I'm at, kind of nearing an end to this video, I think. Shouldn't be too much longer. Hope maybe get this mask done probably tomorrow would be my best bet. Anyway, I'll leave it at that, and we'll got quite a bit done on that other brow too. Took me about maybe 30 minutes or so. You can see some of it's standing up, so I got to put the blow dryer on it. But I got pretty far up the nose, and you can see, especially as I got closer up towards the nose, I really tried to get the one hair at a time. There's quite a bit of this mask that's like 2 hairs at a time. Totally fine. Just as you get the visible areas, you can see maybe there's some of those areas in there where it's more than 1 hair at a time, and it's just less natural. The further you get away from the 1 hair at a time, I think, because we're used to seeing, you know, 1 hair in 1 follicle. So if we're talking about, you know, what details make this build or this mask great, then in terms of hairing a mask, I would add that as one of them. Is if it's, you know, 1 hair at a time, then it's probably going to be a really natural looking mask. At least the hair on it will be not really natural looking. So I'm going to put the blow dryer on this and see where I'm at with it, and then go from there. Okay, so I'm getting ready to hair the cheek, and I've gotten up to this point, which you guys have seen already. From here, what I'm going to do is I want the hair to start getting shorter as it gets closer in towards the nose and the middle of the face. But what I want to do is, I was using 9-inch hairs out here, and then what I want to do is I went to 6-inch hairs, and I'm going to continue with the 6-inch hairs in the brown, and I'm going to work my way in and just kind of see how it looks. What I'll probably do is I'm going to use the 6-inch hairs up until about where the glue line stops, and then I'll kind of blend it in with this here, and I'll kind of draw a line right about like this with that 6-inch. Then I'm going to kind of take a step back, see how it's looking, and see if I want to start shortening the hairs. But at some point I'm going to be doing a progression from 6-inch to 4-inch, and then when I get all the way up in here, so again, 6-inch down here, probably up to about this area, then I'm going to probably switch to the 5 and 4-inch in here, and then when I get really up in here, I'm going to go to like 3-inch and then 2-inch, and maybe even shorter than that. And then I'm gonna basically draw like a curve from about the corner of the nose kind of down this way. It'll be brown hair all the way up to that point, and then the mustache will go on this thin area here in the middle. I'll make another video showing the mustache. I've got the other side of this done before I made this video, and I'll show a better picture of it later, but I did exactly, over here, I did exactly what I was describing on this side. I'm just gonna do over here and finally capture it on video so you guys can kind of see how that comes together. But coming along, almost done. Should be done probably tonight. So all is going pretty well, and then we'll get all of them here, and then we'll do a final style. All right, so I am working on putting that 6-inch hair on, and there's a couple things that I wanted to talk about, and also just sort of do a better job of video documenting how I do this as I bump the camera, and hopefully so a couple things before I actually start punching is I just want to talk about positioning. So I've got this, I've got two different stands here on my table. One of them you can see here in the background. It's a taller stand. I've also got the stand that it's on right now, and it's a little bit shorter. It's, I don't know, 5-6 inches shorter. And the reason why I bring up the height of the stands is just because I really feel like the ergonomics, I think that's the right word, the ergonomics of the positioning when you punch hair is super critical. You really want to spend some time making sure that the mask is in the right position so that you can get in the correct position to punch the hair in at the right angle. So I've got my punching needle here, and the angle that I want to punch in is right here. And you can see that this needle, as I punch in, is going to be almost flush, I think would be the right word, flush with the skin. And I'm just going to punch up through that. When I get up closer here, you know, it'll bend a little bit, but this is the area, you know, this is the angle that I want to punch at. My angle right now is a little odd just because I'm taking video of this and trying to show people how I do this. So I'm just going to tilt it a little bit, and hopefully that doesn't, you know, mess up your angle. I will turn it back to show you the area that I've punched, but I'm hoping that you guys can kind of see the angle that I'm punching at. So I've got my bundle of hair. I've got a couple of like straggly long hairs hanging out of it, and I'm just going to cut those off because they get annoying being in the way and everything. Okay, so again, the angle's important. So what I'm going to do is I just kind of lay this bundle of hair down where I am wanting to punch hair into, and I'm just kind of laying it down so that I can grab a couple hairs off the edge of it. And I press down on those hairs to kind of, I don't know, to, what's the word I want there? To just kind of separate those hairs from the rest of the bundle. And then I just sort of, as I'm pushing flat down against the skin, I just kind of push that needle in forward, and it'll have a tendency to grab 1 to 2 hairs. My particular felting needle, it seems like it has 2 to 3 little spots on it. I guess it looks like 2 little spots on it that are meant for grabbing a hair. And so sometimes it'll grab 2. As I'm punching the hair, I'm trying to grab as close to the end of each hair as I possibly can. The reason for that is because if I grab down here in the middle of this hair and then I punch in, say, 1/4 of an inch, or yeah, I'll say about 1/4 of an inch, then what's going to happen is there's going to be one long strand hanging out of that hole, of that follicle, if you will, and then there's going to be another little tail sticking out. And it's really just not the natural look, and I think I've discussed that more in this video, but I wanted to just touch on it again because it's kind of an important part of having a naturally looking hair. So again, I'm just angling this felting needle so that hair goes in at the angle that I want. Some of that hair is so like close to the surface that I can literally see all of that hair that's punched through. I'm not worried about that because it all gets covered up as I work my way up. But again, I'm going 6-inch hair, and this is really the last bundle of 6-inch that I'm going to probably have, and then I'll probably move to the 4 or 5-inch. So let's see if I can do a couple where you can see. I know my camera, it seems like it doesn't want to focus when I zoom in a lot, and this particular task, I know you guys would really benefit from the ability for me to zoom in a lot so you could really see the detail here. But I'm just doing the best I can to kind of show you what I can. On some level, you're going to have to just try it yourself. Maybe get a test piece of silicone or something. Like I said earlier, you can test on this mask. That's totally fine. Maybe test on an area that you're going to end up gluing over anyway. That might be a better way to test your hair punching skills. Other thing, felting needles, they're not expensive. You can get them on, I think, Amazon. I think I bought this 3-pack on Amazon for $8 or $9 or something like that. So not an expensive thing. And then the last thing I wanted to cover in this video, before I move on to the 4 or 5 inch hair, is this is not a race. Several times during the punching process, you are going to want to stop, tilt the mask up, kind of give it a little bit of a groom, and see that what you're doing is going to give you the look that you want in the end as an end result. You don't want to just punch a bunch of hair and then leave it like that, and then all of a sudden tilt it up at the end and find out that you didn't punch it in at the correct angle, or the hair isn't pointing the right direction, or it doesn't look natural because you've folded the hair over on itself and there's little tails sticking out. So my recommendation is do, like, 1 or 2 little swatches like this, and then reassess where you're at, and take a step back. I cannot stress that enough. Take a step back, look at what you're doing. Don't just throw it all together and then think that it's going to just look fantastic, because this is like a whole process. And one of my favorite sayings is slow and steady wins the race. And I will tell you right now, when it comes to hairing a Chewbacca mask, I would definitely apply that saying, slow and steady wins the race. And it's going to seem, especially on these cheeks, it really seems like it's just taking forever. Just take breaks. Take breaks. I can't tell you how many times I've been punching or whatever, and then I kind of just I want to get it done so bad and move on to the next thing, that I sort of, maybe rush it a little bit. And then I wake up the next morning and I come out and I look at the work that I did the night before when I was kind of trying to rush things, and I end up having to pull all that hair out because it's just not looking the way I wanted it to look. So take your time. This is not a race. This is something that, you want this to not just be looking good when it's on you. You want this to be like a kick-ass display piece that you're gonna just sit there and look at it and enjoy your Star Wars awesomeness. So just really take your time, and don't be rushed by it at all. I don't think this is not a project that's served well when it's rushed. There probably aren't very many of those projects, but anyway, there's a couple points there that I wanted to touch on, and so hopefully that helps you out. Okay, a couple more things that I wanted to talk about. I kind of got philosophical in that last little session there, so I apologize if you're just wanting me to show you how to do it. But anyway, I forgot to turn it back and show you a look at the area that I've been punching. I'm still working on it too. There's an area right up here where you can see it's a little thin on hair, and I wanted to chat about what I'm doing here. So a couple things is, I don't think I talked about this hair tie. I can't even remember what these are called for some reason. Anyway, they are these things. I don't know why, but I always forget the name of these things. It's like the silliest thing. But anyway, they use them in kindergarten. Anyway, I use one because that hair around the nose is, it just always wants to move, and when you're, manipulating and moving your hands around the mask, it wants to move. So I like just putting it there and keeping it in place. And it also kind of forms that hair to the nose, which is what you want as a final result. So that's one thing. Then I wanted to show the punching, just taking a look at what it looks like and the distance apart from it. I'm gonna put a ruler up to it so you can just kind of get a sense. But my follicles are, I'd say, about roughly an eighth of an inch apart, and about an eighth of an inch apart, and very generally speaking. 1/8 of an inch apart, and they are, I try to stagger them as best I can, similar to how I'm gluing on here. I try to stagger everything in the same way that you would latch hook, just so you get full coverage. Okay, so there's that, and then what I'm doing here, I don't know, I kind of look at this almost like it's repair work. So I talked, I think in a previous video, about how I got a little bit sloppy with my gluing here, and I glued really close to the actual like lip of the eye socket. And I kind of wish that I hadn't done that. I kind of wish that I had just stopped that glue line outside of the area where it's painted black. And it would have been easier to punch. It's just, it gets kind of tricky punching through the glued areas, and I like those areas to be back and away from where that's going to be visible. Now, I'm not worried about this at all. I've dealt with this on other masks too, and it's totally something I can fix. But it was a little bit sloppy, and the endings of the hair were kind of sticking up. So what I did was I grabbed some of my little nail clipper scissors that you can just buy in the you know, nail clipper section at the market or whatever, and I went in and I just cleaned that area up a little bit. I just clipped off some of those endings that were sticking up. You might be able to see in the video, there's like just some areas sticking up. This area here that is not glued right there, grab my felting needle / pointer. This area right here doesn't have glue on it, and you can see it's much more flexible, so it's sort of lifting up better. I've got two of these popsicle sticks in here. I've got one lifting up the eye on the top, and then I've got another one coming in at this other angle here that's sort of trying to bring this section closer to me so that it's at an angle where I can punch. And this area that I've glued is still really not at the angle that I want to punch. So what I'm going to do is I've cut off this little piece of EVA foam, and I'm going to try to just slide it under these to just lift that thing up a little bit more so that I can get it to the angle that I want. I'm going to kind of just put it in there. You probably can't see what I'm doing right now, but I'm going to put it in there, and then I'll show you what I did. So I'm kind of just putting part of it in there. I like using foam for this because the needle can go into it. You know, if the hair gets punched into the foam, it'll just come right off of that when you pull the foam out. I would say just put your hand down on the hair when you pull it out. That way the hair doesn't keep pulling through the mask. Anyway, hopefully that makes sense. You can kind of see what I've done there. Now, I'm not going to leave it like that for any length of time because I don't want this silicone to like be stretched in that way or anything, you know, or lose its elasticity is a word. And but anyway, I kind of wanted to just show, like, I'm kind of using some of these creative ways. If you just chimed in and you looked at this video right now and you saw this thing and these popsicle sticks and this, you'd probably be like, what the hell is this guy doing? But you're just finding these little creative ways to try and get into these spaces. But you can see I need to add hair in this spot. So what I'm gonna do is add a bunch of 6-inch hair in that spot, and then I'll be done with my 6-inch hair, and I'll probably move on to the 4 or 5-inch stuff down on the cheek. I kind of wish I'd done this area earlier when I did the brow. I just kind of knew it was going to be kind of a pain to get through. So I'll do a couple of these, and I just putting each hair through, and kind of gently pulling that bundle off of the hair. I might try to get a little bit more dense as I get to the edge of that silicone, just because I'm trying to cover up some of that messy glue work there. This is pretty common and a pretty easy fix. I need to remember next time though, like, you know, go easy on the glue there as you get close to the edge. That's really the case anywhere on the mask. If you're getting close to an area that you're going to be punching, go light on the glue on the Silpoxy. Getting close to a finish here on this mask, and should be able to release all these videos soon. So hopefully they'll be helpful for at least one person. Well, I know they're already helpful for at least one, so that's good. Anyway, I'll do about 10 more punches, and I'll kind of give you a look at where I'm at. I'm hoping that the video is even pointed at this right now. got that needle, I'm holding that needle just perfect to get about one hair at a time right here. Seems like when I spin the felting needle, it like, if I, turn it a certain way, it grabs two. If I turn it back the other way, it grabs one. So it's always, and I've never quite pinpointed the exact way that I need to hold it to grab the one hair. Luckily, this is a very hidden area, it's tucked up under the eye. So this edge here doesn't need to be super natural. The edges where you really want to be cautious and make sure you're grabbing one hair are all around the nose, because those are super visible areas, and then that bottom lip. If you have, if you're punching in more than 2 hairs at a time, and you're gonna have these great big hair follicles, and it's just not a natural hair look. So I'm getting right up. I mean, I'm about 1/8 of an inch away from the edge of this, and the hairs that I'm punching through, I can see them going through. They're actually going in to that foam, and that's fine. Totally fine. And I have enough, I do have some tails there that I might have to go in and kind of clip a little bit. I've got literally 4 hairs left in my hand, and I'm gonna see if I can at least get 2 of them. Maybe 3. Yep, good. All right, I'll just drop the last hair. So I literally was using almost every single hair in that little bundle that was in my hand. So anyway, I think that's pretty good. I got a little bit more to do down here, but all of that area up to there is good. I don't know, I'm gonna need maybe 7 or 8 more hairs just in this little tiny spot right here on the edge of that eye. But before I make that final decision about putting more hair in there, what I'm gonna do is pull all this stuff out and get a sense for if I have the coverage and the look that I'm wanting. You can see also all that hair that's sticking out through the inside of the mask. Now again, sometimes I trim that off as I'm doing this, just because I can see it right now. I could come in with those little scissors and trim that. But what I like, and it's what's much easier, is I just wait till this whole thing is haired, and then I just flip the mask and I just trim it from the inside, and it usually makes it much more easy to just trim it rather than having to tweak in here and get all that. So all right, so you can see there's definitely like some stuff I'm gonna have to clean up here and shape with the heat and everything, and so that'll be fine. So what I'll do is I'll put heat on it, and if there's still hairs that aren't wanting to stay in place, I'll probably clip those off. If there's hairs that just, no matter what, they're not doing what I want them to do, I might just pull them out and then try to either redo them or just pull them out and not leave a hair in that spot. So anyway, just kind of trying to think out loud there so you guys can hopefully benefit from some of that. All right. Okay, so just a quick update. I've done 1 or 2 bundles of the 4-inch hair, and it seems to be blending really well. If I step back, it's really tough to tell. Like, there's no clear lines or anything. It looks very natural, so it's just looking really good. It's a little bit poofy, so what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna take my blow dryer, I'm gonna point it down at an angle this way, so that it's pushing this hair down, and then I'm just gonna basically take my small black brush here and just pet it a couple of times and kind of just pull it tight and try to get some of that crimp out of there. I don't want to get all the crimp out. You can look in this area right here where I maybe went a little bit too much. I gave it a little bit too much of a straight look. It seems to look fine. It's not, any problem, but I don't want to do any more than that. So yeah, anyway, I'm getting closer to the nose. I've just basically got this small section here, and then I'm on to the upper lip, which is always fun to do that because it's like down the home stretch. It's like the last 0.2 miles in a 26.2 mile marathon. So anyway, getting really close. Give you as close up as I can, as long as we'll stay in focus of my punching here. I'll put a ruler on it so you can get a sense for the distance. Yeah, so I don't know, 1/8 of an inch, maybe generally speaking, I guess it's about two to 3 millimeters apart on my punches in general, for those of you that use the metric. But anyway, that's pretty standard right there. There's a couple of, you can see the larger follicle areas where it's 2 or 3 hairs, and then you can see the much more natural looking just single hair follicles. The more one hair follicles you get, the more natural of a thing you're gonna get. You can probably look at the lower lip and see the same thing. But anyway, good close up there of the punch work. All right. Okay, so I've been making my way up further up this cheek, and I've gotten to within about 1 inch of being done. You can see there's just a little bit left there that needs to be punched in, and I may have to come forward a little bit just down on the mustache area with the brown. But the tough to get spot is this area that's right here, which you can see. And so I've got 2 things I want to do in this video. One, I've punched in 1 inch or 2, kind of moving up forward with the 4-inch hair, and it's looking really good, but it's a little bit poofy. It's making this this cheek seem a little bit more puffy, and you can't really see the definition in Chewie's face, which in almost every situation there's definition in his face where you can see that the contour of his cheek, and you can really tell when I hold it down like this that it's better. It's a pretty subtle thing, but there's just a little bit too much puffiness to the hair. Anyway, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put the blow dryer on it, and I'm gonna just hold this area down and kind of just firm it up a little bit. So I mean, I could just kind of let the brush sort of sit in there even, and the weight of just the brush kind of holds that a little bit of a contour there. And so I'm going to put the heat on it. I'm going to let the blow dryer get warm, hot, before I put it on there, because I want to know how hot it is, and it's going to be really quick. I don't want to over straighten this area. I just want it to kind of settle a little bit. Okay, it's hot. So I'm just really gently, I'm going to be careful not to be blowing this hair up here around. And then I'm just going to put it at an angle on that cheek right there. Kind of moving it around a little bit. Pull the brush out and see what it does. And I'm going to move it in just a little bit closer. And there it goes. I can kind of see it. It sort of melts straight for just a second there. Looking pretty good. I'm going to keep doing that gradually. I'll give it probably one more pass here. Getting pretty close to locking into place the way I want it to. There we go. So this half is all locked. I needed to spend a little bit more time right here. So I'm going to one of those, probably one more. There we go. Super difficult for you to probably see what's happening there on camera, but hopefully you get an idea for what's going on there. Just be really careful with the heat. Don't spend too much. I can definitely see a noticeable difference. It's sort of a partially straightened hair now. And so if I tip them up, I don't know, maybe you can, but you can really get a sense for the contour of that cheek area. And so, yeah, that's where I'm at. So now I'm going to be going in with, I'll probably do a little bit more 4-inch hair, but I'm going to basically be going in. I'll just measure it right now while I'm on the camera. But this hair that I'm going to be punching in here, I don't want it to come really over this lip where his face starts kind of dropping a little bit more. So this hair is going to be, it's going to be 3-inch hair. Probably 2.5 to 3-inch hair. I'm gonna go 2.5 hairs from here forward, and that way all of that hair, the 2-inch hair, will kind of sit on this shelf, if you will. Some of the hairs will be longer because I want them to be, blended in. I don't want there to be like a line of hair. So, but anyway, that's kind of me thinking out loud again. I would say this is a pretty tricky herring job. And if you like this, the way that I'm herring this mask as opposed to the way other people might do it, I think that with all of the different hair lengths and the angles of punching and all of the other factors that I've talked about in these videos, punching this inner spot right around the nose can be pretty tricky. And there's a couple techniques with the blow dryer and all of that, you know, using the tongue depressors and stuff to get in those angles. And that's what I'm going to be doing next, is I'm going to be shoving a tongue depressor under this area of hair. I'm going to probably put some hairspray on this stuff on the brow just because it's kind of getting in my way. But I'm going to put a tongue depressor under here, and I'm going to extend it up to the underskull nose area, and you can see how it kind of lifts up that area. It just kind of popped off of the nose area, but I'm going to try not to touch the lip mac either, so it can get a little bit tricky just kind of getting this tongue depressor in the right spot so that I can hair this space of hair, because the angle of the felting needle, when it's not in there, it's too straight. I'm not able to get there very easily. So if I can lift it up for a little while and then pull it out, then usually I can get to that space pretty quickly. So just make sure, try not to glue down those areas that you're going to be manipulating when you're punching the hair. And I'm pretty sure I talked about that in the videos for making the mask construction. If worse comes to worse, you can always, if you've glued down this area, what you can do is just go in there with an X-Acto knife and just kind of peel away what you need to lift up in order to punch. So it's not the end of the world if it's glued down. You'll just punch as much as you can, and then you'll get to a spot where you really need that better angle, and then you'd have to go in and just kind of slice away some of that glue, and then you just go back in and re-glue it. It's no big deal. Just use a minimum amount of glue so that you're not having to dig through and separate the mask, from tons of glue. So yeah, I think that's it. Getting really close to being done on this guy. Hopefully all this stuff with manipulating the skin is making sense, and hopefully this is helping. Okay, so getting really nearing a finish here on this mask. A couple things that I'm kind of just doing, just kind of give you the roundabout on this. Really happy with how this mask is turning out. Super, just, I don't know, feel like I just did a good job on the hair and stuff, but I just love this V3 mask. Anyway, it's so satisfying when you get to this point. A couple little things that I need to fix, work on right now, as I've got the cheek haired, and this was the side that I had done earlier. Yes, I did this side earlier, and then now I just had finished this. No, maybe it was the other way around. I can't remember which side I did and which side I did and didn't video, and the other. But you can see this side has a little bit more skin showing here, and depending on the movie accuracy that you're going for, he does show more skin there in some of the original trilogy stuff and maybe less in the other. I personally like this, so I'm gonna add maybe, I don't know, I'll probably add like 10 more little like 2-inch piece, or yeah, like I guess that's about 2.5-inch pieces down there, and I'll just kind of plug them in here just to kind of have a little bit more coverage on this hair over here. And then another thing you can kind of see if you look really close is I've come a little bit more forward on the lip on this side than I have over here. It's a little further back, so what I need to do is come forward on this lip. I don't know, that's roughly 15-25 hairs forward, and then the gray will just obviously go where his mustache goes. It always is funny to me like how it just sort of doesn't look like Chewie without his mustache, and the mustache is kind of a fun little, it only takes 20 minutes to punch it, or half an hour or something, but it's just amazing how it just suddenly looks like Chewie when he gets his mustache onto me. One thing that I did that I didn't really videotape, but I will try to do some level of a demonstration, is I kind of thinned out and shaped the brow hair to kind of give it more of a blended look. And I need to spend just a little bit more time on it, I'm going for more of like an original trilogy look where he has sort of like an arc in the brow, and it's blended in, so it's not like just brown below my hand. It's sort of a gradual move to the gray. And so what I have to do is just take out just the right amount of hairs. The way that I do that is I basically just grab those thinning shears, and I just grab little bits at a time, and I just pull them kind of off of the brow so that I'm trying to just only trim the brown. And I'll just trim a couple, I'll pull a little more and I'll trim it. And then what I'll do is I'll kind of step back and I'll just take a look at it. And when it gets to the point where it's what I'm wanting, then I just kind of settle on that. It's not like rocket science or anything. But what I want to do is like this blend right in this area here. I like this blend, and what I want to do is kind of carry that over just a little bit further here, and then over here I need to take a little bit of hair out of this area here. So I'll just like trim with the thinning shears, and then I'll just pull those hairs off. I'll probably do that with 5 different little tiny sections. Then I'll step back, take a look at it, and go with that. The sides are looking pretty good, pretty natural looking. I don't think I'm gonna have to do a ton of thinning down there. There's a little bit down here that I might have to just kind of mess around with, and I'll just move it around with my hand to see if I can get it more natural looking that way. But if for some reason there's any chopped look down there, then I'll do the same thing with the thinning shears that I did up here on the brow, but I'll obviously just be doing it down here. Over here, same idea. I'm kind of liking what I'm seeing there. I have put some hairspray on this just because I'm trying to kind of get a real finished look. I've made masks that look this good before, and they literally do not have 1 ounce of hairspray on it, and they're amazing. This particular hair though, it requires some hairspray because it kind of wants to go all over the place, but still looks fantastic. And then the last thing that I need to do is I need to go in and trim some of the hairs that were coming through the mask around the eye. You can see them in there. It's just kind of messy. So what I'll do is I'll use some hairspray, and some hairs that I just can't get to do the right thing, I'll pull them out. And then when all is said and done, when all the hair work is completely done, what I do is the same pancake makeup that I use to put on my eyes when I wear the mask, when I'm in costume, I'll just dab that pancake makeup around these areas of the eyes to just cover up any like glossy areas that the glue has created, or any kind of blemish type, just any like, I don't know, sloppiness or whatever around there. I'll just dab with a brush. I'll just dab some pancake makeup and essentially just put some makeup on the mask. But you can see in there's some hairs that I need to trim. So I'll go in from the inside and get those. But mask is looking really, really beautiful. Boy, this one's going to be hard to send off in the mail. I'm going to probably wait a couple days and just look at it and enjoy it for myself before I send it off. I also like to do that just because, I don't know, you get a night's sleep and you wake up the next morning and you see something a little different, and you maybe want to make a little slight change here or there. But this one, I'm just really loving it. And I haven't had any completed masks in the shop for a while, so it's going to be really cool to just have a completed mask in here to look at. They are cool to see in kit form, but boy, they sure are amazing when they're completely done. So getting close to a finish on this guy. All right, getting ready to finish up the mustache here on Chewie. Couple little things. I'm using 3-inch hair. You can see, obviously, I've already done one side. Normally, when I'm latch hooking the face, I'm trying to stay about 1/8 of an inch, or about 2 to 3 millimeters per punch. The mustache is not quite, in general, Chewie's mustache is not quite as densely punched. So like as you get up towards here, you can see through and see some of the skin. That's kind of the natural Chewie look. But 2.5, 3-inch pieces. You could trim it a little shorter depending on the look you're going for. I like punching in 3-inch pieces, and then I can get the thinning shears on it later if for some reason it's not doing it. Now this hair, as I'm punching it in, it's a big messy, you know, hair going everywhere because this hair is like really wiry and stuff. And so I put the blow dryer on that, and I kind of just held it in the position that I wanted it to be in as I held the hair dryer on it. Be careful with the hair on the mustache. You don't want it to be too straight. You definitely want like that beast sort of look. And so I didn't put the brush in it and put much tension on it. I just kind of held it in place where I wanted with my hand. And then, all right, so just a quick look at some of the tools I used during this hairing process. I have got Harry all the way haired. He is basically complete, minus just have to turn him and cut off the hair on the inside of the eyes. But that just takes a few minutes. Probably won't do that on camera just because I'm ready to be done with this mask. So anyway, some of the tools I used: tongue depressors. I did just one time I used this. I could have used it more, but I just showed another video of me using a little slice of this EVA foam to kind of wedge it in there just to help me in a similar way to the ways that I use these mixing sticks. Scissors, obviously, my felting needle, some little curved scissors that you can get, like they're for clipping your nails. Of course, thinning shears, again, on those, go the more expensive route if you can. The cheap ones really suck, and they get dull really fast, and they just don't cut real well. Go for as many teeth as you possibly can, and give you an idea. I don't know how many teeth that is, but that's what mine look like. I think I bought these at Sally Beauty Supply, if I remember right. These things here, and then the one thing that's not here that I will put in here is a detangling brush, which I use pretty often. Oh, and a blow dryer, sorry. And a blow dryer. So right there, that's the stuff you need to hair a Chewbacca with. And I guess I could throw in some of this Perfection. I love this stuff because it gives a real dry look at the end, as opposed to some of the stuff that gets you get a real gloss on it. It is expensive though. I think it's like 20 bucks for a bottle, and I've only been able to find it at like a hair salon. I can't find it on Amazon. So anyway, I'm gonna probably regret telling people about that because now they're all gonna get bought up or something. Anyway, I used 2 packs. This is amazing, by the way. Like usually it seems like I use way more hair. Credit to Cyberlocks for whatever it is they're doing with their hair. It has lots of volume. So a lot of hair, or a little bit of hair, went a longer way. Normally I use 3 packs of gray. I used only 2 packs of gray on this mask. I mean, really not quite even 2. I had a little bit of leftover, nothing that was very usable, but for all intents and purposes, I used 2 packs of gray. And same thing with the brown. I only use 1 pack of brown. So if you are making a mask and you're not using this hair, that's totally fine. You're just using something that looks similar but from a different place, then expect to use, safe to say, 3 packs of gray and 2 packs of brown. And that way you'll just make sure you have enough to make the mask. And that way you can kind of gauge how much hair you need if you're doing just a mask or a full suit. And then I would also include Silpoxy. I found this on Reynolds Advanced Material. They're nearby in the Northwest United States. I've got this, I think I bought like 5 tubes of this, and I think they were like $32 a piece. I looked on Amazon last night and they were like 46 bucks. Normally they were 36 bucks. So not a huge deal if you're only buying 1 tube to do 1 mask, but in my case, I do a lot of masks, so it's nice to get them for a cheaper price when I'm buying them in bulk. Stands. Foam head. I just made this. This is like heavy particle board, something that, you know, isn't going to tip over. Wooden dowel. Nice to have a shorter one, and then nice to have a taller one. I guess, gosh, I keep thinking of different stuff that I used. That this thing right here, let's see, he's With the foam head on, he's about, looks like about 16 inches tall. And then the other one's a little taller. The other one's like 18, 19 inches tall. So I had two varying heights. Not necessary to have two, but, you know, at least have one stand. It's going to be, I don't want to say critical that you have one stand, but it's going to make your life a lot easier. So make a stand. This guy right here is taking a real beating because he's made a lot of masks have been made on this guy. So I don't know. He holds the faceless man there, holds a special place in my heart. Anyways, so yeah, there's the stuff. I guess I'll add silpoxy to that too, because you need that for gluing on there. And again, I thought of yet another thing that you need. The silicone caulking. And then you could even throw in some CA glue if you're talking about gluing the back cowl to the actual fiberglass in the early stages of this herring process, and some zip kicker to go along with it. So there's a look at all that stuff. I'm going to take a photo and probably post that to Facebook just so people have a reference for the stuff they need to hair the mask. But anyway, this is a super fun project. It has an absolutely amazing payoff at the end, and that is you get to have an awesome looking Chewie mask. If you put all the time and detail and work into it to making it look good and getting the hair to go the right way and glued in the right direction and all that stuff, then you too could have something that looks like this guy right here. And I'm pretty happy with how he's turned out. I'm happy with every mask I've made and how they've turned out, but this guy is looking pretty good. I'm really happy with him, and it's the first time in a month or so that I've had a finished mask in the shop, so I'm just excited about him. I've done everything. I obviously finished the mustache there, and last little like finishing touch thing is I added a little bit of a gray streak there in the middle of his nose, which Chewie has. And he doesn't need much styling, but he I don't know how to say it. I mean, there's not a whole lot. Like you could move him around, and he doesn't need a ton of hairspray. And this particular mask has upgraded teeth and stuff, made with actual denture materials, and just a fantastic mask. The hair work turned out really well. Anyway, so I'm going to make this video a wrap. All 4 phases of this are done. I just basically have to go in and do a really quick trim on the inside of the eyes. But other than that, this guy is done. So I hope you guys enjoyed this series of videos. I've posted parts 2, 3, and this part here will be 4. And from there, I'm basically going to go back and do part 1, which is simply going to be latch hooking the back cowl, and then we should be good to go, and people will have a really good idea of what it takes to hair this particular Chewbacca masks. And I think a lot of the techniques used in this video are techniques that you can use to apply to other kits too. There's some other fantastic makers out there that I know. Paul Humphrey sells kits, and he also does fantastic hair work, and he's I think he's in the UK. Sorry, Paul, I don't remember exactly where you live, but I think you're in the UK. But yeah, he does a fantastic job. Jamie with Chewbacca, I think 5.2, also makes incredible masks, and she has sold an incredible amount of masks. The amount of joy that her masks have brought to the world is just incredible. I don't know if she's selling kits. I'm planning on doing a Chewy kit run. I don't know if it'll be a long run or what, but I figured, you know, give people a chance to apply some of the stuff I talked about in these videos to an actual kit that they could purchase from me. So I'm looking at doing that. And I'm also taking commissions on full masks too, if you don't think you're up for that challenge. But just kind of stay on the lookout if you're interested in buying a kit. If you're not interested in buying a kit, you can always talk to me about getting a completed mask. They are obviously a lot more expensive and a lot more work. But depending on where you're at and what's the right choice for you, I'm definitely open to conversations. And I can't wait to get this guy out in the world, and he's going to somebody that already has a finished suit and everything. So I'm really excited to see him on the guy, and just bringing smiles and stuff. And I hope he likes it. It's this is something that gosh, I wish I could keep him. You know, he's pretty cool. I felt that way, I think, about every single mask I've made, and I feel like that's the way it should be. So anyway, I think that's it. If you guys have questions or comments, put them down below. I'll do the best I can to try and answer those. Tried to make these videos in such a way where I wasn't, like, you know, projecting to the world that this is the way you do it. This is sort of just the way that I do it. And so I'm also really excited to see if other people have other ideas or other ways of doing things that I might be able to learn from. Because like I always say to people, and I really truly mean it, like, the world needs more Chewbacca in it. He brings so much joy. I mean, people just grown adults at events, they just melt because they, you know, see a Chewbacca that they think is like, the, you know, right off the movie set or whatever. And it just brings a lot of joy knowing that you can create something that does that for people. And so that's super cool. And anyway, just happy Star Warsing to everybody. Hope everybody has a good holiday. And I'm going to go ahead and cut this video off. But I appreciate you guys tuning in. And boy, if you've watched all 4 parts of this or all 3 parts of this up to this point, you probably feel like you know me now after all the hours of listening to me talk. Hopefully I didn't bore you too much. All right, we'll end it there. Thank you.